If you follow my live streams or have watched my crossover episode with Top Hat Gaming Man, you've probably already heard me state that in Portugal, the Master System outsold the NES by a wide margin. And while this is true, it isn't a full story. There are several reasons as to why the NES didn't do too well in my country. For one thing, it was more expensive than the Master System, and the Portuguese Sega distributor Ecofilmes did a better job at promoting their video game consoles. But see, that's not the full story. The full story is that there's a good possibility that the Master System might have been ranked second against a third contender. And that contender was this. Ladies and gentlemen, meet the Family Game. This is a Famiclone and was sold in stores next to the official consoles and was treated as such. Now granted, Famiclones are nothing new and we've all seen them online. But in my country, it seems that the Family Game line of Famiclones was the most dominant one, as I've met several people who owned them before. There are also a ton of variations on these. Not so much on name or design, but rather on the games offered. And despite these being unofficial knockoffs, they were still pretty damn pricey. I mean, sure, they didn't cost as much as a real NES or Master System, but they were still pretty expensive. If I were to convert my console to today's currency, it would have cost around €100 or 120 US dollars or 90 pounds. So, not all that cheap. My console came in this large cardboard box, which seems to be mimicking the NES action set packaging, except the console is clearly modeled after the Famicom instead of the Western NES. My dad bought mine in 1991 after my brother kept begging for one when I was either 4 or 5 years old. It's pretty funny. At the time, I didn't even know what video games were. I thought my dad was buying a toy gun for my brother because the light gun was the only thing I could recognize. On the cover, we can see a Super Mario cartridge, which never came with the console because Super Mario is embedded into the console itself. And we also see a light gun, which also never came with the console. On the back, we find the cover for Contra, which doesn't come with the console, Super Mario 3, which is also not on the console, Baseball, which, yeah, there's a baseball game on the console, but I have no idea if it's this one, Zippy Race, which is also not on the console, again Super Mario, and on the other side we have Arabian, which actually is on the console, Zippy Race again, which is not on the console, Ice Climbers, which is on the console, and that baseball game again. So, I'd say about 70% of this box is a complete lie. The console itself is modeled after the Famicom, but there are a few changes. My console doesn't have this handle in the middle. Instead, it came with a Mario sticker in its place. The weird thing is that even the box shows the Famiclone with the handle. Which, again, like I said before, there were several design variations on the Family Game consoles, so I'm guessing mine is a subsequent variation. As for the games, my Family Game console came with 42 games in its memory, and you might think that this is another one of those bootleg consoles that claims to come with thousands of games, but in reality it only comes with 10 or 20 games and the rest are just variations. But actually, no! This does come with 42 complete games, though they're all early Famicom games. In fact, the newest game on this thing is the original Super Mario Bros., or Super Mary Brothers as the console calls it. When you turn on the console, you're sent to a menu of 20 games where you can select what you want to play. And if you hit the reset button, you're sent to a second menu with an additional 22 games. Also, the console only outputs RF or composite, so the image quality here isn't going to be great. From here on, there's really not much else to say. Super Mario runs a bit slower than normal, though I have no idea if it's because the console is in 50 Hz or if the Family Game itself has a slower CPU. Another interesting tidbit is that it's said that these early Famiclones actually came from the same factories that made the official NES, Famicom, and other official Nintendo hardware, which would explain why my Family Game still works after nearly 30 years. Sadly, given the nature of these things, it's next to impossible to find any info on it, so I can't confirm any of this. The console also runs these Famicom-looking cartridges, but cannot run real Famicom cartridges. I only ever owned one of these, which was Top Gun, but I have no idea where that cartridge is anymore. Though there was a stationery shop near my home which had dozens of Famiclone cartridges that you could rent for up to 5 days, and that's actually how I discovered most of the NES and Famicom library as a kid, by paying 50 cents per day for a game. I can't really complain though. I did get to play games like Super Mario 3, Joe and Mac Caveman Ninja, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as some despised games like X-Men and Spider-Man. It even had bootleg games, including Fatal Fury and a lot of Street Fighter games. Like, a lot of them. I mean, you had Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 3, and even Street Fighter 4. And you know the crazy part? I actually enjoyed most of these. Hell, Street Fighter 4 is a surprisingly good 8-bit fighting game for the NES. No, seriously, this game is legitimately good. It's fast, the hit detection is good, and the moves are easy to pull off. Anyway, back to the family game. Like I said before, this console comes with 42 games in its memory. Now, I'm not gonna talk about all of these, so I'll just briefly touch on a few of my favorites or games that I find the most notable. Some of the most famous games on here were Pac-Man, Galaga, Mario Brothers, Balloon Fight, Joust, and Excitebike. But everyone knows about them, so we can ignore these. Obviously, the most popular game on here is Super Mario Bros. It runs a bit slower than the real thing, and the name was changed to Super Mario Bros. But hey, whatever, it's Super Mario Bros. And it's good. Another game I really loved was the original TwinBee. For those who don't know, TwinBee is a shmup series created by Konami's Parodius team. It's basically a shoot-'em-up where you have to shoot bells to get the power-ups you want to use, so you spend quite a bit of time juggling them as you shoot down enemies. This series was pretty popular in Japan, and it even spawned an anime series, which I've never watched. I fully believe that this game is the reason why I love shmups so much, as I loved playing this. And this is a pretty good conversion from the arcade. So good, in fact, that when I played the arcade version on the Xbox 360 Game Room nearly 20 years later, I ranked the 14th best player worldwide. Another game I really loved was Field Combat by Jellico. Here, you play as a thing, and you can either shoot down your enemies or capture them. Once captured, you can summon them and they'll fight for you. I've always loved the concept of having others fight with you and for you, which is probably why I love strategy games so much. This isn't a strategy game though, but it did probably help spark my interest in the genre. Macross is another shmup, a bad one. Here, your ship can transform between 3 different states. The ship scrolls faster but moves slowly. The in-between mode is exactly that, slower scrolling but faster movement, and the mech mode really slows down the scrolling, but you can now move much faster. Eventually you go inside the enemy ship, blow up the core, and then do the same thing all over again, but at a higher difficulty setting. I can't really say I like this one. Yi Ar Kung Fu is a fighting game by Konami. You only get to play as the Bruce Lee-inspired character, aptly named Lee. Here, you must defeat a series of different opponents, each with their own set of moves and tricks. You also get a few bonus stages. This was a pretty fun game, and my brother loved this one. Ice Climber is, well, Ice Climber. It's the same game you all know and love, except this version is uncensored, meaning that it removes those odd fuzzy things from the Western version and retains the seals from the original. Other than that, it's the same game you all know and love. Though I'll always prefer this version as it's the one I grew up with. Mappy is another great game, this time by Namco. This is a single-screen arcade game in which you play as a mouse trying to stop robbers. So you'll have to catch all of the valuables before they do. To do this, you'll jump on the ropes, which can break if you jump too much, and you can use a remote control to open or close doors. So you can knock down cats or send them flying off and get bonus points for taking down multiple cats at the same time. This was one of my favorites and it's still a fun game. It also has Popeye the arcade game by Nintendo. This was a really fun arcade game where you need to collect items before they fall in the water, all while avoiding various hazards including Bluto. If you need help, you can get the spinach, which allows you to beat Bluto off the stage for a while and grants temporary invincibility. This is a great game, very fun, and as a bit of trivia, did you know that Mario as a character only exists because Nintendo at the time couldn't get the rights to Popeye? Now you know! Formation Z is an interesting one. You start out as a mech shooting down enemies, but you'll pick up fuel items. And you use fuel to transform into a jet, and once you do, the game becomes a shmup. The cool thing about this is that it's all seamless. You can go from being a mech to a jet, and vice versa, anytime you want. You only need to be careful for when you run out of land. Because if you don't transform into a jet on time, or if you run out of fuel, you lose a life. And that's pretty much it. Like I said, there were a lot of different models and variations on these. So even if you owned a family game, there's a good chance your design or game lineup was vastly different from mine. Still, I'm happy for owning this. I absolutely loved my family game and it was my introduction to gaming. What about you? How did you get into gaming? Do you think you'd still love video games if the family game had been your introduction? Let me know in the comments. Hey everyone, thank you for watching SteakEd's Retro Corner. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. All that fun social media stuff. And be sure to hit that notification bell icon to know when a new video is out. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. Bye!